As the sun rose over the nation's capital, a sense of unease settled over the party room. The air was thick with tension, and the whispers of discontent had grown loud enough to be heard by all. At the center of the storm was Julian, a veteran MP who had once been a rising star within the party. However, his fortunes had taken a dramatic turn in recent months, and he now found himself facing exile from the very party he had once called home. The trouble had begun when Julian had spoken out against the party's leadership, criticizing their handling of a contentious policy issue. His comments had been seen as a betrayal by some, and the party's hierarchy had been quick to condemn him. Despite the backlash, Julian had refused to back down, and his defiance had only served to further inflame the situation. The party's leadership had grown increasingly frustrated with his antics, and it seemed that the final straw had been reached. As the party room meeting convened, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The room was packed with MPs, all of whom were eager to see how the drama would unfold. The party's leader, a stern-faced woman with a reputation for being ruthless, took her place at the podium. Her eyes scanned the room, lingering for a moment on Julian before moving on. The meeting began with a discussion of the party's policy agenda, but it wasn't long before the conversation turned to Julian. The leader's voice was icy as she condemned his actions, labeling him a disruptive influence who had brought the party into disrepute. Julian, who had been sitting quietly at the back of the room, rose to his feet to defend himself. However, his words were met with hostility, and he was quickly shouted down by his colleagues. The leader's expression turned glacial as she called for a vote on Julian's expulsion from the party room. The result was a foregone conclusion, and Julian was promptly booted from the party. As he gathered his belongings and made his way out of the room, Julian couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. He had once been a proud member of the party, but now he was nothing more than a pariah. The news of Julian's expulsion sent shockwaves through the nation's capital, with many pundits weighing in on the implications of the move. Some saw it as a necessary step to maintain party discipline, while others viewed it as a heavy-handed attempt to silence a dissenting voice. As for Julian, he was left to ponder his next move. He had been exiled from the party, but he still had a constituency to represent. He vowed to continue fighting for his constituents, even if it meant doing so from the crossbench. The days that followed were marked by a flurry of activity as Julian set about rebuilding his political career. He met with constituents, attended community events, and worked tirelessly to promote his policy agenda. Despite the challenges he faced, Julian remained optimistic. He knew that he had been given a rare second chance, and he was determined to make the most of it. As the weeks turned into months, Julian began to rebuild his reputation. He formed alliances with other MPs, worked across party lines, and slowly but surely began to re-establish himself as a force to be reckoned with. The party's leadership, however, remained unmoved. They saw Julian as a traitor, and they were determined to do everything in their power to prevent him from regaining his former influence. The battle between Julian and the party's leadership was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. But one thing was certain, Julian would not go down without a fight. As the dust settled on Julian's expulsion, attention turned to the party's upcoming conference, where the leadership would face a fresh challenge from the party's grassroots. The conference was shaping up to be a showdown between the party's moderates and its more hardline elements, with Julian's expulsion serving as a rallying cry for those who felt the party had become too authoritarian. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation, one that would determine the future direction of the party and the fate of its embattled leader.